I'm going to demonstrate how to create different looking curls and waves using the tongs on Olga today. When you're working with the tongs, I usually find it best to start at the nape of the neck and work upwards. So I am just going to section the hair away so we can start working down at the bottom. So we have our top section, our side sections, the crown section, and then we can start curling down at the back. Into what I'm going to do so you can see the difference between the two curls, I'm going to split the head into kind of, we usually have our 3 roller sections down the back, but what I'm going to do 1/3 with the reverse wind, and then with these other 2 sections, with this other section here that's a little bit wider, I'm going to do the reverse wind with a twist. When you do the reverse wind with a twist, if you're going to show your bride 2 different ways of curling the hair, I usually find it better to use a little bit more hair for the twisted version of the curl, because then you can see the curl a little bit better. So I'll just pin this away and we'll do our reverse wind on this side. And we're going to do the reverse wind with the twist, our different curling technique on this side here. But let's start off with our reverse wind first. So I'm going to spray the hair with some heat protector first. So it's an Indola volume and restructure spray. It works as a setting lotion and as a heat protector as well. So we're going to get our first section. Spritz a little bit more setting lotion on your section. If you do that, especially if you're working with quite fine hair and it has a tendency to drop, or quite thick frizzy hair and it has a tendency to go fly away and frizzy, a little bit more setting lotion just helps the curl to hold. But just make sure that the hair is dry before you put the tongs onto the hair. So with the reverse wind, I'm just going to use the straighteners as kind of little mini straighteners just to smooth out the top of the hair here. That's it. So with the reverse wind, basically what we do, it's a lot easier if you keep the clamp down rather than lifting up the clamp. So you keep the clamp down and you're just going to wrap the hair around the tongs, keeping the hair nice and flat on the tongs, making sure there aren't any loops or anything in the hair. That's better, so keep it nice and smooth and straight on the tongs. Now if you might want the end of the curl to be straight if you don't want too curly a look, but if you do want to curl the ends, then you can take the hair over towards the middle as you get to the end of the hair and roll the tongs back down so the end just gets caught underneath the top part of the hair. You don't need to hold it on too long if the hair is quite fine. To take that off, you're going to just lift the clamp, put the clamp back down again, so it's lots of little lifts. Take the tongs out. Thank you, Olga. And then keeping that curl in, holding it in the position. Get one of your little pin curl clips and slide it across the back. So I just put this back up. Make sure it's a little bit tighter. That's better. Spritz the hair, being careful not to get any moisture on the hair underneath, and Make sure you've got no tangles in the hair. Thank you. So then we reverse wind. I'm using a 25mm tong, and so again we're going to keep the clamp down. You want to keep the hair quite narrow. You don't want it to be too wide because you're going to use the length of the tong to wrap the hair around. So try and keep the section a little bit narrower and keep the hair down to the bottom end of the tong, and then wrap the hair around the tong, making sure you don't get any twists in the hair. So you don't want to kind of twist the hair. For this technique, we need to keep the hair nice and flat on the tongs. Go around again, and as you get to the end of the hair, if you want the end to be flat, you can just keep hold of it, or if you take the hair over to the middle a little bit, bring the tong back out again, then as you roll the tong back down, that end gets caught underneath the top section of the hair. You just want to hold that just for a couple of seconds. You want to be able to feel the heat just coming through the hair. Lift the clamp, remember to pop it back down again, so you're not lifting the clamp and trying to pull the tong out. Lift the clamp, put it to loosen the hair. So lift the clamp to loosen the hair, pop the clamp back down, and then you can easily take the tong out of the curl. Keep the curl in position, in its shape, and pop a clip in there. A little bit of heat protector. Comb the product through the hair. Make sure the hair is dry before you pop your tongs on. The hair over to the bottom of the tong. Wrap the hair around the tong, keeping the hair nice and flat. So you do have to let go as you get to the top, or else you will end up with a twist. So let go of the hair and regather, and then keep on wrapping around. Start taking the hair over to the end if you're looking to get a curl all the way down the length of the hair. I might take that up a little bit, then wrap around and come back down. That's better. If you feel you're a little bit close to your client with the tong, pop your comb just underneath, between her scalp and the tong, just to make sure you don't have any accidents, don't cause any problems. Keep that around. Thank you, Olga. Keep hold of the curl and pin that in place. So that's our reverse wind. You could use a little bit of hairspray instead of setting lotion, but again, make sure that the hair is dry before you start using the tongs. If you are using hairspray, just make sure that you're using normal hold hairspray, because you don't want the hair to end up crispy. Thank you, Olga. So now I'll show you how to do the reverse wind with a twist. I'm going to take this bottom section first. A little bit of the setting spray and heat protector. I'm just going to do one curl here. You'll notice, the hairline at the bottom is always a lot narrower, so you don't need to do 3 sections at the bottom. Here, so I've just done one curl already. A little bit of setting lotion. Now I could probably split this into 2. If it was rollers, I probably would split this into 2. Because the tongs are so much hotter, you can work with bigger sections at a time. So this is going to be fine to do as one section. So with this one now, what we need to do, we're going to keep the clamp down again. And you can keep that little rest out of the way. Keep the hair down to the bottom of the tong. Now, similar to the reverse wind with a twist on the heated rollers, we're going to keep our thumb very close to the barrel of the tong this time. Wrap the hair around the tong. My thumb is still on the tong at the back. Look at my watch, turn around, look at my pulse and go back to flat again. All the way around, my thumb is still on the tong. Look at my watch, turn around, look at my pulse and go back to flat. So it's important that you keep the hair flat at the bottom here and you just have a short, sharp twist just on the top. So let me do that again for you. Keep the hair down to the bottom of the barrel. Look at your watch, turn around, look at your pulse and go back to flat. And then we take the end over to the middle and roll the hair, the tong back down the hair. Just hold that for a second. You might want to take your heat glove off so you can check the temperature of the hair. And again, lift the clamp. Be careful with this one. The hair is hot, so just let the hair rest in your hand. We want to keep this curl, hold this curl in position as best we can and pop our little clips, our pinko clips at the back to hold that curl in position until it cools down. So again, I'm going to do this as one section. Sometimes I find if I keep my sections quite wide this way, but quite narrow this way, you get a bit of a deeper wave. So let's just give that a go. So keep the hair flat on the tong at the beginning. It's going to be a bit hard with the glove on, the hair can be a bit slippery, but it's worth it. That's it, so hair flat on the tong, come around, look at your watch, thumbs on the tong, twist, look at your pulse and go back to flat again. What you don't want to do is have your hand here, because if you have your hand here, you'll still get the twist. Let me get that hair out of the way. You'll still get a twist if your hand isn't on the tong, but you can see it's a very long twist. And we want a very short, sharp change in direction. I'm just going to spray the hair because it's a little bit slippy. I think if I spray it with some hairspray, it'll give it a little bit more friction, so it won't slip on the tong so much. Okay, so thumb on the tong, come up, look at your watch, turn around, look at your pulse and go back to flat again. Sometimes on the courses when I teach this, we kind of imagine that we're spreading butter onto the tong. It's to keep your thumb on the tong. So we're going to spread some butter around, then we come up, twist and go back to spreading butter. All the way all the way around the tong, and then at the top you look at your watch, your thumb is still on the tong, so you've still got butter on the tong, and then you do a short, sharp twist and back to flat. And as you get to the end, you're going to come over to the middle, do that twist and roll the tongs down. So you do end up, if you imagine, think about the butter analogy, there's butter all the way around the tong except for where you've done that little twist. So you'll have a little line where there isn't butter. So if you imagine it's just taking your thumb around the tong, and it's the same when we use the heated rollers and we do this technique, wrapping the hair around the tongs. You know, you've got some butter on your thumb and you are spreading butter on the tong. So you want to make sure, and the butter is only here, so you need to make sure that this part of your thumb stays really close to the tongs. If you don't have a heat glove, just try and be as close as you can, but without touching the tong. So I've got my butter on my thumb, taking the thumb around the tong, and you get to the top, look at your watch, turn around, look at your pulse, and go back to flat. So it's going to be flat all the way around the back here, and you just got a short, sharp twist in the hair, a short, sharp change in direction just at the top. Take it over to the middle as you get towards the end. Careful taking the tong out. You want to try and keep the curl in its shape. You want to try and hold it in position there so you can clip it in place until it cools down. You might find one little pin curl clip is enough, but you might find you need two. I'm going to show you how to do a traditional wind using the tongs. So you want a little bit of heat protector, and I'm using the Indola volume and restructure spray. So it's kind of a setting lotion and a heat protector. Make sure there are no tangles in the hair. And then I'm going to get the tongs. So it's similar to the heated rollers. It's the same technique as when we use the heated rollers and we do the traditional wind. You're going to take the tongs. You might need to lift the clamp a little bit so it doesn't drag the hair as you take the tongs down to the end of the hair. Don't go all the way to the end, just start turning a little bit as you get to the end so you don't lose the hair. So you can lift in the clamp a little bit, and then you're just going to roll the tongs up the hair. Similar to when we roll the rollers down the hair, now we're rolling the tongs down the hair. This section might be a little bit wide. I could have perhaps used a slightly smaller section. So maybe to begin with, you could start off using slightly narrower sections. The problem about using sections that are this wide, when it comes to securing the section into place, when it comes to securing it into position, it might be a little bit kind of floppy. It's a bit difficult to secure. But let's just give this a go. So this will be our traditional wind. And then when you're ready, and you can feel that heat just coming through, you're going to just lift the clamp a little bit so you can loosen the tong, loosen the hair on the tong, try and keep hold of it all, that's it. And you're going to roll that back up and clip that into position. We're going to use our little pin curl clips. If you're using little pin curl clips with a little bar across, when you're pinning the pin curl clip in, make sure that the section of the clip without the bar across goes at the bottom, goes next to the head, because otherwise you'll find they don't slide in. That's it. Smooth out the hair a little bit. So we are using the clamp for this technique. You can lift the clamp a little bit as you take the tongs down to the end of the hair. You want to be careful not to drop the end of the hair. Not so easy, this technique, if somebody has layers in their hair. And roll the tong up the hair. If somebody does have layers in the hair, you might use the reverse wind at the ends of the hair, just to where the layers are cut in, and then you will roll the tongs down the hair in the same way that we would do if we were using heated rollers. Lift the clamp. If your sections are a little bit too wide and you find it hard to hold all the hair in position, just use slightly narrower sections than I'm using here. I'm going to pin that into position, roll that up, and you want to pin it up onto the scalp. So let's take out our reverse wind curls. And here I'm going to wrap the curls around my finger, and you can see we've got very much a corkscrew shape curl. You can use different size tongs depending on the size of curl that you want. Just curl that around. And if you get a little bit, any little flyaway bits at the end of the hair, you could maybe use a little bit of your catwalk cream or even your L'Oreal List Control. Just get a little bit just on your fingers, and you can just, if the curl's a little bit fly away, you can just smooth the cream over the curl and wrap the curl around your fingers, and you get a lovely glossy curl that will hold its shape. Let's take another one out here. So you only need a tiny bit of cream. If you put too much cream on, the curl will drop and the hair will look greasy. So it's just a tiny little smear of cream. Now of course you can keep the curls in one big section, or you could separate the curl and again rework each of those individual curls around your fingers. Let's do that again. If it gets a bit fly away, just go over it. That should be better. That's better. What I would try and avoid is to pull your fingers through the curls, because then you can just end up with very fluffy looking curls. So don't do that straight away. If you want to brush the curl through at the end, you can, and you'll get a nice wave to the hair. But at the beginning, just try and avoid the temptation to pull your fingers through the curls, because they'll all end up looking quite fluffy. So here we have our reverse wind. Now we'll look at the reverse wind with a twist. And here we want to treat the curls quite differently. So with that one we wrapped the curls around our fingers. With the reverse wind with a twist, you don't want to wrap the curl around your fingers. With this one we almost want to pull the hair out of that twist. And the reason when I do a trial, if I want to show my bride two different looks, I usually do 2/3 of the head at the back with the reverse wind with a twist and 1/3 with the reverse wind, because you need a little bit more hair to see this curl properly, especially if it's got quite fine hair. So with these curls, you can just do a few curls with this technique and you'll be able to see, your bride will be able to see what the curl looks like properly. But with the reverse wind with a twist, you need a bit more hair to really get the full effect of the curl. So if you're doing a trial and somebody shows you lots of different styles, she wants her hair half up, half down, and she shows you some hair with curls and some hair with waves, then what you can do, if she's not sure which curl she prefers, do 1/3 with the reverse wind and then do 2/3 of the hair with the reverse wind with a twist, and then she can see the two different curls. We're going to pull the twist out of the hair. And it still looks a little bit like a curl, but in a minute you'll see we just need to get a little bit more hair in there and it will start looking more like a wave. So it takes a couple of sections of hair to really see this wave coming through. So here we don't wrap the hair around our fingers, we just pull and take that twist out of the hair. So we get a much more wavy effect as opposed to the curls. So here we've got our wave coming down the hair, and here we've got our curls. Take the twist out and get the wave. I might actually think it might have been better to do this section, on this section underneath, we did a wider section of hair here, so we've got a nice wave. Here it's kind of separating a little bit, but you can bring that back in again. So it is usually easier if you use slightly wider sections, you get a much deeper wave. Traditional wind curls. So with these curls, with the traditional wind, we get just a curl at the end of the hair and more of a curve on the mid-lengths of the hair. So a nice little curl at the end and just a bit of a curve higher up here. can use a little bit of hairspray, and these curls will drop a little bit, so don't worry if they're too curly. You always want to give a little bit of leeway, allow a little bit of time for the hair to settle and to drop. So we have our 3 different curls created using just the tongs. We have our reverse wind, which gives you a lovely corkscrew curl. The reverse wind with a twist, where we get that lovely wave to the hair. That's a lovely kind of deep wave to the hair. And then we have the traditional wind, where we just get a lovely bouncy curl at the ends of the hair, and more of just a curve on those mid-lengths of the hair. So if somebody wants to keep the length of the hair and still have a curl, then the traditional wind might be a good option. So we have it's a little bit straighter here with just a curl at the ends of the hair. If you do a trial, you could try doing each different curl and showing your bride, and then she can choose which curl she prefers. So then you know on the wedding day exactly which technique you need to use. If you found this video helpful, just remember to like and subscribe and join me for my next tutorial. Creating beautiful hair is easy when you know how.